What am I introducing you as? David Futernick, same usual?
Yeah.
Sopranos podcast, Super Hoopers.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Anything else?
Great guy.
Okay. All right. Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast. He's a great guy. I got to tell you, that's the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of this guy.
John, please. No.
One of the hosts of the Super Hoopers podcast, as well as a Sopranos podcast. He is in my face these days more than Tom Thibodeau. Every time I look up, see him sitting in that office chair, leaning back, loving life,
eating cheese puffs. Yeah.
This credit card, like the generator of the Credit Karma gravy train, David Futernick. Hello, sir.
It's rare that you do commercials for a product that you just really stand by, but I love Credit Karma.
Where were you before Credit Karma?
I know, exactly.
You found joy in Credit Karma.
Yeah, my credit has improved thanks to that spot. So it all, it's all.
I think that's what they had in mind.
Meshes together.
Oh man, how you been doing?
Good. I'm tired. The dad life is exhausting.
So yes. So I want to start with you because we'll get to Nick stuff very soon. I promise. For all of our listeners,
please. It's all about me. Next.
No, you have 2 kids in your life now. I don't know how much we're allowed to talk about that, but I did want to just ask you how things are going.
Yeah, we can talk about it. So earlier this year, my wife and I had a foster son. He went to live with his grandmother. We miss him dearly. And now we decided that wasn't good enough. So now we decided instead of just one toddler, we'll have a toddler and a baby and a newborn. So they're sisters. They're one is about to be 17 months. One is 4.5 months. And I can't remember the last time I slept through the night.
I was about to say you're as in the weeds as one can get with those 2 ages. No. I'm sure you're loving life.
Oh, I wake up every day at various hours of the day, various hours of the morning, and I just feel so refreshed. It's fantastic. It's
good for a Knicks fan to be in that position because it really does give you some perspective. It's like, I think the Knicks cause me to lose sleep. No.
Right.
No. This is the real thing.
Well, this season combined with these little children has legitimately aged me considerably.
You do have a few more grays than certainly when we met.
Yeah. It's like when you see an athlete who's like a good example. I recently saw like Sheed, and you're like, oh, Sheed has grayed.
It happens.
Yeah, I have the Sheed beard now. It is like getting a little more old, a little more salt, a little less pepper.
It's a good thing you're a happily married man because you know what they say, funny. No play for Mr. Gray.
If I was still single right now, I would definitely be dipping into the Just for Men, going the Clyde Hernandez route.
I just have to share a very quick story because I know you will appreciate it. So as listeners know, my wife has been under the weather. She's actually up and out and about today, which is good. She's actually making some carrots right now. God bless my wife. But she was down for the count with the flu for several days. And so yesterday, for you're
so demanding. You always make it. Even when she's sick, you make her make carrots for you. It's just
I require carrots.
Such a tyrant. A tyrant rabbit.
I'm the man of the house.
I need my carrots.
You will cook me carrots. But anyway, she was not up to leaving or doing much of anything yesterday. So the older one had a birthday party that was supposed to be from 2 to 3:30, but she also had ballet at 3:30. So I was there with her for the first hour of the party, and then at 3:00 we left. I had my phone out, obviously, watching as I'm walking back to my apartment, shuffle upstairs, change into the ballet outfit, walk to ballet, all the while attempting to listen while trying to make sure my daughter doesn't run into traffic. Sure. Come home, watch the game a little bit like a normal human being. Halftime, thankfully, coincided with when I had to pick her up from ballet. Did that, come back, and then, of course, we timed it out so that my wife was like, "I'm going to conserve my energy and get up to give the children to watch the children as they take a bath together and wreak havoc in the bathroom." Right Good when mom. Right when regulation ends, and we had like kind of timed it out.
Yep.
And the game goes into overtime. And in the time of overtime,
it shouldn't have.
It should not have. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in a sec. In the time that
we could say that's also assuming RJ hits his free throws, which is
free throw. It only been one. You can hit one.
Okay.
In the time of the overtime period, any strength and will to live that was within my wife evaporated. And so she went back to lay down, and listeners don't know this because they couldn't see, but like my older daughter was running around buck naked because she was preparing to get in the shower. As she was trying to corral the smaller one and just bring her anywhere away from where I was. It was really that, and combined with how that Knicks game went down. That was it was a day. It was a day.
Yeah, that's a nice daddy day.
It was a great daddy.
Yeah.
Day. Anyway, enough about children. If this was not the best birth control ad for anyone listening who does not have kids, I don't know what.
Yeah. I promised myself I won't be one of those parents that like just bitches and moans about it because it's wonderful.
It is wonderful. Yes.
But when someone asks you how you're doing, it's generally you go toward the like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, like, don't ask me that question.
Yeah.
So in Knicks news, all that was going on during. Can we still? I don't know. Are we as Knicks fans are we allowed to call that the game of the year? Because obviously it doesn't feel like the game of the year because they lost, but like
right
in terms of how exciting it was, and
you mentioned it in your newsletter today. I was thinking this yesterday during the game, like how kind of out of nowhere this has become a very, very interesting rivalry this season. Right? They've been good games. They're testy and physical, and the teams just match up well together. Including their players that haven't even been playing all that well this year, just seem to have good games against them.
Van Fleet,
yeah,
like what he's. I'll look it up now. Like his shooting percentages on the year are not good. I don't know how bad they are, but they're certainly not good. And then he had 2 straight games of 28 a pop coming into yesterday. And then yesterday I don't know. I thought he was the player of the game. I mean, some of the shots he hits, that's why it's like you want to be upset, but at the same time, it's like, tip your cap, man.
Yeah. And also it wasn't one of those games where they were up 21 and then found some way to lose. Like it was a back and forth game, the whole way. So you want to win every game, but, that was a loss of all the losses that like hurt. That was a loss I could stomach yesterday for some reason.
Yeah, he's 37% for this is after yesterday. 37% for the year, a little under 33% from 3, and then this season he's had 8 games scoring 28 or more, and 3 of them have come against us. So go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. Like you just kind of brought it up. Well, on the, like, it wasn't a 20-point lead we gave away. Like, yes, there were those, it felt like 3 straight possessions or like 4 out of 5 or 4 out of 6 possessions in the fourth quarter where it's like, man, can we just get into our stuff a little quicker and like stop trying to milk the clock with 5 minutes left in the game when you barely have a single digit lead. Like that's stuff.
That's every game though. It feels like they completely, even against teams like the Pistons, they seem to find some way to have several possessions down the stretch in clutch time where they just like completely abandon any offensive sets.
Yes.
And that's
the annoying part.
That kills them.
And I feel like the takeaway from it, this is not a natural sports fan thing, but like, I wish I was wired this way, but I'm like, I wish the takeaway from yesterday is like what you just said. It's like, we're going into these games and we're in the midst of these games and we will lose a close game. And like what you just said, like you want to win every game. The fact that we've gotten to the place this season as Knicks fans where we could, that is legitimately how we feel. It's like you come out of a game and you're like, man, can't believe we lost that one. We want to win them all. And that's not crazy. I feel like that should be the lead story, but obviously it's not because we are who we are.
Yeah. Too much PTSD.
Too much PTSD. No, but man, I don't know. I was on with Jake Fisher afterwards, and his first point to me, just as someone who, like, again, he admitted he only watched maybe 5 or 6 Knicks games this year. It's just like the Knicks are good, which I think I don't know. I feel like we should be able to settle in and just admit that.
You're seeing that more and more from non-Knicks folks in the last month or so. People are like, the Knicks have turned into a good basketball team. I enjoy watching them. And obviously a lot of that has to do with Jalen Brunson turning the tides for us, which has trickled down to guys. I mean, all the discussion about how it's affected Julius so positively. Look at how it's affected Immanuel Quickley so positively. He seems to really enjoy playing alongside him, and he's become a different player. And obviously, Grimes wasn't playing at the beginning of the season, and Grimes is in there, and we love Grimes. Grimes is the man.
You're soft pedaling Grimes here. It sounds like.
No, I love Grimes.
You did? Okay, it's just muted.
No. Well, because it's just like we knew that. We know
because he's a metronome, and you know what he brings every night. Yeah,
exactly. It's more the players that have taken that next step. I think this season, to me, Quickley has improved more than anybody else on the roster has. From last season, just his consistency and his confidence in his game has grown so much. And a lot of that, I'm sure, is you get a little boost from starting. That helped his confidence considerably. It's
funny because like he's still not shooting it great, and if you just look at his starts, like the shooting numbers are okay.
Yeah, but he's not jacking up some of the kind of crazy shots that he was last year. He seems to know when the shot's not falling. He's good at just knowing, I'm gonna shake and bake a little bit and take it to the hole a little more.
I feel like maybe the toughest balance to strike in the NBA, and maybe there are guys who do this really well, and I'm just not thinking of them, but just like, so like if you're a star, it's very easy. You're going to shoot it, whatever, 20 some odd times a game. And if you're kind of a lower echelon role player, it's like when you're wide open and you're a good 3-point shooter, which, again, most role players that get in the game today, unless you're a center, like they are going to be good 3-point shooters. So it's like if you're open, you shoot it. Right. And if you're not open, you pass it. Ideally, maybe you try to put the ball on the floor and then pass it. But if you're like in that in-between zone, so I mean, really, I guess this just is basically like 6 men, maybe 4th starters on some teams, maybe some 7th men. It's tough to find that balance between being a guy who chucks it too much and then on the flip side being like oh man,
the Terrence Rosses of the world.
Yeah. And it's like, I feel like with a lot of those guys, you just kind of, you feel like it comes with the territory. So you'll live with the occasional low percentage shot or the step back 3. Maybe that's not in the most ideal shot in that situation. But the other side of the coin is guys who are way too hesitant. And if anything, I feel like Quickley has gone towards that, but not that has improved. Like in the beginning of the season, I think he was definitely more hesitant. Now over the last maybe month or so, could you use a little bit more aggression from him at times? Sure. But I think he's finding a really nice balance. And I don't think that that's been easy because of how many different hats he's had to wear.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm excited for him. I'm excited. I am too. I'm happy he's going to be a Knick too, because I don't think they're going to trade him.
This is something that more casual Knicks fans always text me about is, is he still like on the chopping block? Is he still on the trading block? How do you feel about that?
I don't think he is.
I don't think he is either. I think he's too valuable to them now, and especially on the contract that he's on. I think he's too valuable to let go. And also, they're not sellers.
they're not. Well, here's the thing, though. When his name was appearing in those trade rumors, I don't think it was because they were like, we're, sellers in the, like, traditionally when you hear the word sellers in NBA parlance, right? It's like, people asking right now, are the Wizards going to be sellers? Are the Bulls going to be sellers? Are the Jazz going to be sellers? It's like teams that are like on the verge of being like in the play.
Season's done.
Yeah. It's like not officially done, but it's like all but done or
writings on the wall.
Yeah. The writings on the wall. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to meet your preseason goals.
Right.
With the Knicks, when they were like, they're going to sell quickly, that's what made it, I think, so I don't know, just staggering to hear it, is because it's like they were still very clearly at the time trying to win, trying to right the ship. And he is a guy that was helping them do that. All the numbers said as much. And that's why it was like, it felt like it spoke to just not an unnecessary, idea, like notion of shuffling constantly shuffling the cards by the front office, but just that they didn't have as good a grasp on a good handle, and like the foundation was wobbly. That was what I always kept coming back to. It's like, if you're going to trade that dude, something's wrong with your foundation. But I'm happy now. I think we can move on from that.
Yeah.
I think
at this point, I mean, it appears they'll just kind of nibble. That seems to be this front office's MO anyway. They're
nibblers.
They're nibblers.
They're nibblers.
Yeah.
What? So I'm like writing a little something about the trade deadline for Wednesday's newsletter, and there's like there's names that are going to keep coming up, like Eric Gordon, Malik Beasley, Gary Trent Jr. I'm trying to think of some other guy, like these sorts of like Band-Aid. Well, Gary Trent Jr. is more than a Band-Aid, but like guys that are either low end starters or high end backups who are probably
microwave scorers.
Yeah, they're not. Even oh my god, I think the Vanderbilt is it Vanderbilt? No, the kid on Charlotte. I'm blanking on his name, and I'm not.
Oh, McDaniels.
McDaniels.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt's. I get the two McDaniels and Vanderbilt confused.
It feels like there's like always like 10 McDaniels in the league.
Well, it was weird because there are two of them and they came out in the same draft and they have the same first letter of their name, with like one letter difference in their first names. Anyway, like those sorts of guys are going to be out there and available, but they're like, are you looking at it like it's not going to change our ceiling this year? What's the point of giving up anything? Or are you in the mindset of like, you know what? It would be meaningful for me as a fan, like the difference between like maybe finishing 7th or 8th and potentially not even making the playoffs versus like securing a 6th seed. And even if it's just a matter of like pushing, whoever, the Bucks into 6 or 7 games in the first round, like would that make a difference to you?
Yes. Maybe that's short-sighted.
I don't think so necessarily.
I think it's our team is young. I think that experience is important. And I don't think missing the playoffs or being a play-in team and still, having some long shot in the lottery is worth dodging playoff experience for these guys. Yeah, I at this point I've completely abandoned, because the team is good enough. I completely abandoned wanting to get. I mean, even when we've felt like we properly tanked, the lottery doesn't go in our favor.
Properly tanked. Yeah. I mean, we tanked about as properly as one can tank, and yeah. Well, speaking of tanking, I want to get back to that in a second. But speaking of tanking properly, it's funny how you mentioned a bunch of names before, and you didn't mention RJ, who I feel like was down, and then it was up, and then he got hurt, and then it was down, and now I
want to say I'm not.
You love RJ.
I'm an RJ guy. I just think it's been such a bizarre season for him.
Very strange.
he has been a little forgotten, which was why that moment yesterday was very cathartic.
Good word. It was cathartic for my daughter too.
He did not look to anybody when he got that rebound.
Yeah.
He had decided, I am going to dunk this ball. You love to see that from him because the biggest issue for me with him has been his decision making.
Yep.
And please give me more of that. Give me that dog. I mean, that was amazing. And of course, like we said previously, he should have shot a free throw as well after that. That was, I mean, we can talk about that now. We can talk about the officiating in the game in general, but
did you find it
Scott Foster going to Scott Foster? But Clyde was singing his praises yesterday for not teeing up Randall,
yeah,
at the end of regulation. I'm like, don't give this man flowers for not deciding a basketball game. That's what he should do. The refs should never put their finger on the scale like that. So I thought that was ridiculous. That Clyde was and Scott Foster of all people. Yeah.
It was not a well officiated game. I watched the replay of the final dunk a few times.
All these Raptors games have been incredibly frustrating because they are very physical.
Yes.
And it feels like all three of these games have the whistle has not been consistent on both.
But that's what Tibbs was saying after the game. He's like, I don't mind if you're going to call the game a certain way, but just when Tibbs says, I no longer knew what a foul was. I think he chose his word.
When you breathe on Siakam and he goes to the line and Randall gets the third foul call, that happened. Yeah. Just like it happens too often. Randall has to be fouled like 5 times before they blow the whistle on any given play. And part of that is he initiates a lot of that contact.
Yeah. He's become really tough to officiate.
Especially that, the swipe is in the bag now. Like that's in his repertoire. Like it's working well for him. But I'm just talking about like when he goes strong up to the basket, like he does not get a lot of those calls. And we can also talk about Jalen Brunson getting tossed around all the time. And I think he doesn't get a lot of those calls because they're like, it's almost like, in real time, they just feel like, oh, he's just getting bumped around because he's a little guy.
Yeah.
Well, he's getting bumped around. He should go to the line more.
I mean, to their credit, as a team, they have gotten much better than in the beginning of the season that they were at getting to the line. Like Julius Randle is shooting, even though he should probably be shooting even more, he's shooting 1 million free throws. RJ's getting back to the line shot, obviously 11 free throws against the Raptors. That's good. Brunson's free throw numbers have gone up since the beginning of the year. So they're better in those areas, but I agree with you. It could be even more. And the refereeing was poor in the game. I don't know. RJ himself said after the game, I knew they weren't going to call a foul, which I don't know how much you take from that, but like, they could have, I think is the point. Yeah, with RJ, like it's funny because like we always zoom out and like big picture, and this even relates to like whether they should make a trade or not to like incrementally raise their ceiling this season, even if it's not going to result even in like a playoff series win. Like, I think there is this perception like, yeah, nothing really matters until they make the trade for the star, which everybody still thinks is coming at some point, and it's more about who and when as opposed to like whether they do it. And I still kind of go back to like RJ, his range of outcomes for me is still so large in both the people will think I mean like this more negatively skewed. I still like when you watch how he was in the second half, or really it started at the end of the first half yesterday. It's like, man, there is still a ceiling for this guy that is out there because he is just 22 and it is just his 4th year, which also in turn makes the moments where he's not as good as or you think he can be, even frustrating. And we still got a lot of those. That's what you nailed it. It's just been a crazy season from him.
And he, Fred Katz had that great article about how like the beginning of his season was stymied by his offseason, kind of being held up. And then he had this injury, which, by the way, sounded way worse than I realized. When all the reporting came out about what actually happened, it's a miracle that he's back this quickly, really.
Have you ever had an injury of that ilk?
Yes.
Really?
John, I've had so many horrendous basketball injuries.
What's the worst? I'm afraid to ask what the worst one is.
The worst one was I was playing at Schertz Park on the Upper East Side when I was, 19, 20? I was in college.
Okay.
And playing street ball. I was running to try to save a ball from going out of bounds. I went headfirst in a wrought iron fence, split my skull open in two places, dislocated my thumbs because I was obviously trying to like brace my fall. I was knocked out when I came to, like the paramedics were there and I was like, had no clue what happened. I was like, this is so dramatic. I can just go home. Yeah. I was in like surgery for like 7 hours, Columbia Presbyterian. So yeah, that I would say that was the worst. My mother was just like mortified. Andrew. My mother like was very unhappy that I continued to play basketball after that.
Oh
yeah,
I'm not sure I could blame her.
That was a fun call to get for her.
I'm sure it was. Oh my gosh. Okay. So then,
so I've had some bad ones. I've had some bad ones.
And it's funny because RJ's reaction after his finger split open when he was just kind of looking at it, walking off to the sidelines, is probably what your reaction would have been. You just would have looked at your tendon sticking out of your finger and be like, "Oh, I should probably get this taken care of."
Yeah. So part of the weird season was that like he's had so many roadblocks, health wise, and look, even despite that stuff. Some players are just always like Mark Teixeira on the Yankees was always, you just knew he was going to have a slow April and then he would always come around and he would always just get his numbers right by the end of the season. He found it. So I don't know. RJ might just be that way for the rest of his career, which would be very frustrating. But I
guess
the ceiling is still there.
I think the ceiling is absolutely still there. I think the ceiling is still there. I was ready. Not that I was ready. I had kind of, when things had gotten real bad about whatever it was, 20 games into the season, I think I had jumped off I left RJ Island as far as like, there's still stardom here. I was like, he needs to embrace being more of a role player. Like that's what this has to be. Like being the third guy or the fourth guy. And then he reminds you, it's like, man, no, this guy still has the ability to be a special player. But even then, he does it in a way that I don't think anybody else in the NBA really does it. It looks different. It feels different. He kind of plays at his own pace. It's not. There's not
a smoothness to his game.
Yeah, it's not flashy.
Yeah, it's not flashy, and you also see him like working. He doesn't often make it look easy.
No, there's nothing easy about any of it. I don't know how it is for you. For me, the players that are much more up and down, the highs and the lows, and with RJ, it has not only been within seasons, but within games where it's like first halves, second halves. Mm-hmm. Those are tougher players for me to really, truly, emotionally get behind. I am much more like, give me Quentin Grimes, where it's like, I know exactly what I'm going to get every night. I know it's not going to be too high. It's not going to be too low. Right there. I need that.
Yep. The metronome.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know. I don't know if most fans are like me or they're up for a little bit more variance in their lives, as it were. What do you? We got to get going soon. I again, dad duty in a bit. What are you excited? Calls. Yeah. What are you excited for the rest of the season? What are you looking forward to? What do what's getting your blood pumping?
I'll start with this week. I want to step on the Hawks' throats later this week.
Wow.
And I want to get some revenge on the Raptors for that loss yesterday.
Okay.
So that's the immediate want. I would love for this team to finish in 6th seed or higher. Probably not going to be higher. That would take some injuries to the other teams. The Nets are dealing with a biggie, and I also have I don't have a lot of faith in Cleveland staying healthy. So
really,
yeah.
Well, it's interesting
because Garland has missed so much time in the past. They're never at full strength. Jared Allen is always hurt. So I could see a world where if this Knicks team keeps playing how they have been, the last month and a half or so, you could see them sneaking in a 5 seed maybe. But I look, that's what I want. That's not necessarily what I think will happen. But I would love for them to avoid the play-in. That would be nice.
I think that's where I'm at too. I would love for them to avoid the play-in. If there was a world where they end up as the 7 seed, do I think it would be the end of the world? No, I don't. No. I don't think that would be the end of the world. Depends on how you get there, right?
And look, the East is top loaded, and that wouldn't be surprising if that happened.
Yeah, and that's like, I guess that's the thing is it's not that like I'm about ready. I shouldn't say this in front of Andrew Claudio. I'm almost ready to back off of like Miami is just they're gonna wake up one day and put it together. I might be ready to back off of that.
I mean, I mean, I loved Riley, in his Knicks era.
That's the thing,
man. You are. I know you are such a Riley stan.
You can't be more of a stan of someone than I am for Pat Riley.
You love that Gordon Gekko motherfucker. You love him.
Just yeah, that lot of respect for the snake oil salesman. But even if you put them, and they're still in record, they're closest to the Knicks. They're a game behind as of now, even though they just lost to the aforementioned Atlanta Hawks. But like, so it's not just that. It's not like I'm fearing any one team, but it's that they're chasing. I feel we had. And we don't know, maybe the Halliburton injury changes this, both in terms of like whether they'll be able to keep up with their record. They've lost 4 in a row, or whether they will, as was reported recently, look to make an addition potentially as opposed to trading off pieces. The Pacers, I don't know if they're going away. Mm-hmm. The Hawks quietly won 3 in a row.
They still have the talent. They
absolutely have the talent. And it's very clear from some of the stuff that has come out recently, like the issues there are. There's a lot of shit going on, but again, there's the talent is there, and then. But
this game on Friday, it's gonna be a game that just like absolutely sends them back down to where they belong.
I hope so. I mean, the next 4 games are interesting. So Washington at home on Wednesday, which I believe is as people are listening to this.
Probably better if Kyle Kuzma doesn't score 40 points this time. I'm just gonna put that out there.
KP had a
we were lucky that KP was so dreadful until the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
that made a huge difference.
He was much better. I forget who he played, but I looked up his stat line. It was a night or two ago, but he was quite good. But yeah, so that's I'm still in like game to game mode. I'm excited for the potential of winning the next game.
Yes.
And then after that, going to Atlanta, and then after that, going to Toronto, and then you got the Cavs at home. So, they got their not their work cut out for them, but like they have an opportunity, right? They have an opportunity to keep the pedal to the metal.
I've been told that anyone can win in the NBA on any given night. I've heard that before.
I think you're right about it. And then, hey, after we get through these 4 games, the next game after that is Thursday the 26th. That'll be 2 weeks from the trade deadline, and that's when I could see us maybe starting to get some news and real rumors trickling in. Although who knows? Maybe that'll happen before then. I don't know. David Futernick, I will always ask you before I let you go, where can folks look forward to seeing you anytime soon? Or find you? Where can they find you?
Well, you can always find me on Twitter, tweeting about the Knicks far more than most of the people that follow me probably would prefer. At David Futernick, and then on Instagram, on all the social stuff, and then as you said at the beginning of the pod, Super Hoopers podcast, a comedy NBA podcast, and we just got back together to start recording Sopranos podcast again this past Saturday. So
love it.
So we're back back on the wagon. We're in the middle of season 6A right now. So
awesome. So the penultimate season.
The penultimate season, although I still have a hard time, even though I know David Chase considers them 2 seasons, but I still have a hard time looking at them as true blue separate seasons. But
because 6B was how many episodes?
8.
It was like 6 or 8, right? I thought.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, if you're a Sopranos fan, and just the Schwinn and Connor Rothbaum just had me on the podcast that they had you on as well.
Great stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I will always take up an offer to talk about myself and talk about the Knicks and talk about the Sopranos. So yeah,
it's a great combination right there.
That's right.
David Futernick, you are a scholar and a gentleman. Thank you.
And a great guy.
And a noted great guy, David Futernick. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, John.